In this section, I want to talk about base maps. Now you may remember we said earlier that the base map is really just the background. It does not change those things that you put on a map. So when you place an ICP, or when you place PLS, or an assignment, or a clue, or a track, these do not change. Only the background image behind them changes. We have several base maps. We have actually a number of base maps that we can use, and each of them offers a slightly different view into the system. In this section, we're going to discuss some of the major base maps that we might use and why we would use them. To look at the base maps, starting with the one that is currently up, which in the upper right-hand corner you can see is Map Builder Topo. This is a good general purpose map for wildland searches. It does show the streets when streets or roads are available, but it also shows colors for where there is vegetation versus where there is not. It is pretty good about showing trails and trail miles, and it shows the contour lines. So as a base map, it gives us a lot of what we want to know about the environment that we're going to search. However, let's look at some of the other options. To do that, we come up here, we look to see where it says base layer, and then we click. Okay? We are currently looking at Map Builder Topo. Map Builder Hybrid is very similar to Map Builder Topo, only it adds a satellite view in the background. So as you look down, you can start to see that in this area here in the center, we actually have some tanks, some storage tanks, oil tanks. You can see that there's trees in some of the green areas. Okay? You can see the shapes of buildings that are on the various streets. Okay? This is what the Map Builder Hybrid offers us. It's actually a combination of several layers. It's a combination of Map Builder Topo and the NAIP layer, which is the satellite view. This just combines the two of those at a certain percentage of sharing of each and presents it as one layer. Scanned 7.5. These are your standard USGS maps that everybody knows about. These are good, and especially sometimes in backcountry areas, because they may show fire roads that you don't see on other maps. And they may show some cases where gates may be found in the fire road. As you can also see, they do a little bit more information in the water area. We can actually see that there's a wreck here, that there's mud. It appears that dolphins have been spotted in this area, that there's lights at each end of this pier. You can see again that there's tanks and buildings within the map itself. The downside of these scanned maps is that they tend to be relatively old. They have not been updated in this format for probably over a decade. The newer versions tend to be more computer generated, but these maps do give information, and especially in a wildland area, of those things that don't change a lot. Okay, moving on. A Forest Service map. Okay, Forest Service, we're not going to see anything here. The Forest Service does not manage anything in the Martinez area. But if I type in Lake Tahoe, now I start to get information on a Forest Service map. They cover parts of the Sierra, not all of it, but parts of it and into the foothills. Again, a Forest Service map can be very good about showing the names on some of your back roads and back trails and fire roads. So they go into pretty good detail. It's sort of like a USGS map, only they've got a lot more of the fire roads named, and occasionally when you can see a sign on one of these fire roads, this will tell you what that sign is going to be and can help navigate in the woods. The Forest Service maps, again, also tend to show you where campgrounds are, such as here at Bayview. And they will also sometimes show where you're going to find gates, where you can cross or can't cross or may be locked out. Okay? A Forest Service map. Marine charts, since we don't search on the water, I'm not going to go too deeply into marine charts. But they do show information in water areas and some of the navigation aids that you're going to see. So for example, we are seeing what appears to be a marine chart of South Lake Tahoe or Lake Tahoe. It tells us the water depths. It gives us our key over here, the depths in Emerald Bay, and it will show some of the creeks that are entering in. And I guess these are rocks in the water near the shore. So it does show us additional things that we don't see, but it's probably something we're not going to use a lot. FAA Sectional, I just want to show we do have this available. Sectional charts are for pilots. They mostly show navigations in airports, navigation aids and airports. If there were a downed airplane and he said he was on such and, last reported such and such a radial from a specific VOR, we might find out that if he's 180 degrees off of Squaw Valley, he would be somewhere along this line right here that I'm looking at. However, other than that, they're complicated. There's a lot going on in FAA Sectional. And again, probably not something that we would use. Aerial imagery. Again, this is very useful maps. This is the NAIP maps. These maps are printable, whereas the Google satellite view is not. And the NAIP is updated every couple of years, and it's got pretty good resolution. Not as good as Google, but still nevertheless pretty good resolution. Looks like a dock or a boat on that little lake. Okay, these are everywhere you can find any other background map or map layer, the NAIP satellite view, you will find this. There's tiles for this, just like there is for every other map layer. Okay. NAIP is over different years. Where this comes into play sometimes is if there's different snow on the Sierra in different years at different times. You might see it in one of these, you might not see it on the other. The false color IR is probably no use for us at all. It literally colors the background based upon the amount of vegetation. The Google layers, I'm sure you all know. The map is the standard road map that we know about. Terrain gives us a little bit more information about how what the terrain looks like in the elevations. Satellite is the satellite view, and then hybrid is just the satellite with road names on it. So we can see, for example, as we drill into Martinez again, we can see Mud Hill Road, Morello, Muir Road. So it tends to show it. Now, there's actually a much better map with street names, and it is printable. And I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. Shaded relief. Shaded relief is how the elevation models and maps appear 3D. Basically, in creating, for example, the map topo layer that has some 3D effects to it, it's by taking a flat map and putting this underneath it. So, for example, if I take this elevation and I just put, well, let's say Map Builder Topo on top of it, and I'll bring in a little bit more of the Map Builder. And you can see how it gives a little bit more of a 3D effect to a map, all right? That's what we do with the base layer. Additionally, I guess since I'm here, I will mention that this is what happens. We can stack maps, different types of maps, on top of each other. So earlier I told you that the Map Builder Hybrid was Map Builder Topo with a satellite view on top of it. So I guess since we're here, I'll show you Map Builder Topo, and now I'm going to stack the NAIP layer on top of it. And now again, as I drill in, you can start to see not just houses and streets, but now you can see what's underneath. So the regular Map Builder Hybrid is probably closer to about this percentage. Okay, so as we stack, you can see we can change the percentages. I can go 100% satellite view, or I can go 100% street view, or I can go ahead and blend them a little bit. If I wanted to stack another layer, I can go ahead and stack shaded relief again, and now I would start to show a little bit of three-dimensionality to my map. But still, it's just I'm stacking layers on top of layers and then blending them. Okay, this is what we do when we want to add layers. It's also later what we do when we add park overlays. End of this section, and now stay tuned for part 2.